everyone, welcome to the Futures of Comp Splatoon breakdown thingy. This time we're doing the stall comps, most prominently showcased by Metro in 20XX. Though I think even Moonlight's comp falls under this, at least the one we did with Pencil. So let's talk about this style of play. And first I want to talk about generally Pencil, pretty simple here. I've said in the video, I believe that Pencil has the most linear role in this, and yeah, I think it paint bots more than anything else here. It does still help in fights sometimes, or challenge longer range weapons, but I think most often in this comp, it's really just here to keep a form of distance pressure, and the paint trail it provides is especially helpful for the punish weapons we'll get to later. But this comp is about having a lot of paint and being able to, in essence, keep neutral going quickly for them to skip the mid-fighting phase and dive on you. And this weapon just does very standard stuff for that. So this role is entry spam. And I think it's Neo Splash and Shot by a mile, with T-Tech being kind of like this weird middle ground between them. But these weapons are also very paint bot heavy. I do think these need to be more ready to fight if necessary. Sometimes they'll be going in with the special from a different weapon. So for instance, if the dually is a crab or the 52 whales, these weapons should be fighting or moving forward as well. But for the most part, these weapons have a very simple job of get a lot of paint on the ground and get a special to move forward in. This is the main special you want to use to set up the other two specials or weapons on your team composition. So it's really important to have a good amount of special output. So I think you do like charge up Shot or charge up Neo Splash for whichever one you play. If it's zones only, it's mostly going to be Neo Splash. I think that Shot has a bit better killing capabilities, and Zuka could be nice for that. But nothing is going to beat the strike output of Neo Splash, and that became really clear over 20XX. So, paint/punish. I think that, again, this comp is really important to keep a lot of paint and be able to turn the map very quickly into their team's color. Basically, once they win a team fight, it should be very little time until the entire map just gets covered. And so these two weapons both do that while being a bit more fight heavy and punish heavy. And Dually and 52 are really the main candidates for that, because these also have specials that I think are good for sustainer fighting. Like 52 can pop whale and you can push with it, or you can go in with the Dually crab very easily. But these weapons are also fine at sharking when they need to. Like they can pop out and kill you very quickly. Dually has a bit more mobility options, while 52 kind of has wall. So these also have ways of dealing with longer range weapons like midlines. The 52's wall is good at tanking against them, and Dually has dodge rolls to close the gap. So these are two weapons that I think can utilize their unique strengths to really kind of cover everything. If anything, I'd say this role is kind of in the middle of these two. Sometimes you can play paint heavy, sometimes you can get a special to get your team in, and sometimes you can shark and punish people. It's kind of in the middle of both options, and I think it does both very well. Finally is Punish. And after this weekend, I'm very certain that Roller is the best option for this. But Roller and Mint are the two that I would lean toward in general because of Bubble. I think that being able to use Bubble to secure the position you have is really important, and Bubble just does so much HP that if you don't have the right specials to deal with it, it can be very tricky. So now you get these short-range weapons in, they're up close, they're in your face, and then the bubble just sustains everything. Or if you don't need it for the frontline weapons, you could just use it for your pen to stay further forward. It's really, really strong. So, like, once you get in with the entry specials with stuff like Strike and the high paint output, it's very easy to get something like a Roller in, and then you get a bubble in a very high-value position. But these weapons are mainly here to shark. They're here to shark and get kills, and to make it so the other team has to be super duper careful walking forward into the terrain you have, because they could just die to one of these or one of these. So the combination of those make it incredibly tricky to move into the enemy team. And these weapons are also just fine at, like, they still control a bit of space because it's hard to walk into them. I think Mint plays neutral a little bit better. Like, obviously can Pokebomb and paint a little bit more, but you get much weaker sharking out of it. So it's a bit better if you want to try to keep more map control, but you're not going to be, like, as hard to walk into as a Roller team. And then Carbon compared to Roller, I think, like, Carbon punishes faster if you're up close to it, but I think the range advantage that Roller has is useful a lot of the time. And then Carbon's kit, while very strong, is much more team assist heavy. The Zuka can kind of help you get in, but you don't have the sustain that Bubble has, so it's a little bit more tricky. Carbon still does have a lot of paint to work around, but I think in this case, Roller's toolkit is much better suited to this style of play. And then, like with some of the others I've talked about, Bucket is here because, yeah, I mean, in theory, you can shark a bit more with Bucket and look for kills, and if not, then you can just poke 70s and get strikes. Bucket is once again here because the main and kit are just so strong. Like, it has to be able to fit into this if it really wants to. And, like, I don't really see any reason why it couldn't, but it doesn't really exemplify the strengths of the comp as well as the other ones. And that's really it. I think that this is very simple. I don't think there's a whole lot of weapons to fit in here. And, I mean, the playstyle is a little bit annoying to deal with at times, honestly. I think that the most annoying part of it is this roll, the entry spam. I think Zuka and Strike are very overtuned, like I said in the video, and the Strike output of Neosplash is frankly ridiculous. So it allows this comp to get so many different attempts to get in with specials, and I do kind of like how midline meta by comparison has to utilize a lot more of the main weapons to make openings happen, whereas this comp just, again, it goes from like turtling and being really hard to rush down because they have a lot of different sharking weapons that kill you quickly to running at you with a bunch of specials and locking down all the space. And it kind of skips that mid-poking phase that I think is, I wouldn't say necessarily like necessary, but it is kind of interesting. I do think it's going to be somewhat interesting to see how this comp deals with dive and vice versa, because I think dive comps are going to be able to poke this a lot more and are going to have a lot more weapons that are capable of fighting and taking space, as well as having a lot of whale to find sharks. But at the same time, it's still going to be very risky to approach this style of comp, and this one seems a lot safer. So we'll see what happens, but I will say for dive style comps, dealing with something like a Tetra that's going to force these sharking weapons to, you know, pop out of the ink to get a kill and then deal with the ramifications of a Stamper noticing that and trying to kill you from it might be kind of interesting. So I think, in essence, to wrap it up, that this comp is going to be really good against midlines. I think midline comps that aren't going to be like Bucket, Stamper, Double Cooler, you know, able to take a lot of deaths and able to skip the mid-fight in general are going to struggle. I think this comp is really good against standard midlines, and the way to beat it for midline meta is to run faster midlines and be able to skip the mid-fight and just go for better kills. And be able to go in and throw yourselves at the enemy team and, like, hey, one guy might die, but that guy trading is going to reveal the punished players and you're going to take them out. And that's kind of the way to beat it to me, but it's very unproven. I think dive has a much better chance, but it's still very difficult, and a lot of it relies on the same thing. Instead of having double cooler, for instance, you would have just a Tetra that goes in and dies, and then your other midline cleans up kills. And I think the advantage for dive compared to midlines is having like a rapid to help with the sword can mean that you could die so quickly to those kind of combos. But all of this is, of course, very theoretical, and that's the point of this whole series here. This is all new stuff, and I wanted to break down what people are looking into, and this is going to develop way further. A month from now, these are probably going to be different to some degree, but I think it's been really interesting to look at the meta developments over the past month or so. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little mini-series to go alongside a main channel video. It's definitely new, but I had a lot of fun covering all these different styles of comps. Thanks for watching.